so in this video I'm going to show you how to change the wheel on your car. Now this will be slightly different from one car to another when it comes to jacking points, but the principle is still the same. So the first thing is make sure that your car is on a level road. Never do it on a steep camber or a hill, because once you jack that wheel up, there is a chance of the car being able to roll downwards, which is obviously going to be very dangerous. Other things you want to take into consideration as well is leaving the car's handbrake up nice and high, so you've got as much grip as you can with the back brakes, but also leaving the car in gear to the opposite of the camber of the road. So if you're slightly on an incline of the road and your front is up, it's good to leave the car in first gear if you're changing the back brake wheels, because as soon as I jack this wheel up, there's no brakes going to be applied to that wheel. So think about the safety aspect. Now the next thing you'll need is a jack of some sort. This car doesn't come with one, so I'm having to use a trolley jack instead. But with other types of jacks, so things like scissor jacks like in this picture here, be careful on how they're being used, because they're very easy to topple over. And make sure that you're also jacking it up by the jacking point. You'll find that in the owner's manual, but also when you look underneath, you'll see either a sort of circular sort of bump that comes out the floor, like in this picture here, or some cars you have to do it to the sill. Now the ones with the sill, the jack will be specific to that vehicle because it has to fit either side and be able to get to the top plate. Try not to be tempted to do it onto the actual side sill here, because these aren't actually structural. So what tends to happen is as you lift the car up, you'll crush that sill. By crushing sills, that can cause problems when it comes to MOTs, because you can get rust build up there as well. And if your sills become rusty, it will fail the MOT because it makes the structure of the car weaker. So the next thing you're going to do is loosen up some of the all of the bolts a little bit. Now you might have a locking wheel nut key, so all you have to do is put it on by hand, rotate it to the point where it catches, and then you'll use your wrench. So I've got a long one here. Sometimes you may get some which are a little bit shorter than this. Obviously that requires more leverage, so you could benefit from leaving a tube in your car as well, because then it extends this to make it easier. Then it's just a case of cracking the nut and just undoing it half a turn each. Now these can sometimes cause a bit of a headache to do if the person that's put them on before has used an air gun. It can over tighten the bolts. Sometimes what you might also benefit from doing is, once you've put it on, is actually standing on it, but try to keep one foot on the ground when doing so. So now all of those are loosened up a little bit, so now we're just going to jack the car up. And we just want that wheel to slightly come off the floor. Yeah, we're not looking for it to be excessively high. Now think about the safety here. So when you take this off, before you put the spare wheel on, put this car underneath as well, this wheel underneath the car, so if the jack does fail, it will land on the wheel, preventing the brake disc from hitting the ground, which could cause a lot of damage and a lot of expense. So now it's a case of just removing the wheel. Now the reason why I'm doing it today on this car is because this tyre's got a slow puncher. There's a problem with the valve, so I need to get the puncher repaired. Now if it's the valve, it's nice and easy, it just needs a new valve. But if there's a nail or a screw in the tyre, sometimes they can be repaired. So it doesn't mean you have to buy a new tyre. As long as it's on the middle 3/4 of the tyre, it can normally be repaired. If it's on this outside edge, then it's non-repairable. You will need a new tyre. And then the tyre's off. So now you've taken the old wheel off, it's a case of putting the new one back on, and it's just done in the reverse order. Now on this one, this is a spare or a skinny wheel, so you can see it's a much thinner tyre. They are limited to speed, so it's really important that you do take note of that, because it can completely blow out at excessive speeds because of the amount of expenditure of the gas. So the first thing that you're going to do is put this on to your hub, and then that's located on. Put your bolt in and just do it up a little bit. Don't try to go too tight, because if it's not in the right place, you'll end up cross-threading the bolt, and that's going to cost you a lot more money to repair later down the line. So you shouldn't feel any resistance. If you're feeling like you're really having to go at it, then that bolt's not in the correct position. Now when you're putting the locking wheel nut bolt on, don't do it as tight as the other ones. The other bolts can take a lot more force. Again, it doesn't have to be excessive, but the locking wheel nut is quite a weak bolt. So if you try to do it up excessively, you can end up causing it to break. And then again, you're going to have to go to a tyre shop and get them to repair it, which will cost you a lot more money. So all I'm doing is just tying it up roughly by hand. Remember, the wheel is not on the ground at the moment. Because it's not on the ground, by trying to over tighten it, you can take the car off the jack and again cause damage. So once you've got that tight enough, you can then let the car down. Again, nice and slowly. And then it's a case of just tightening it up. So until you feel some resistance, and then that's on. Again, with the locking wheel nut not as tight. So you can feel that it just gets to the point where normal body weight is just not quite enough. And then that's it. Remember to take your spare wheel, your locking wheel nut off, keep it in a safe place, because then you're going to need it again once you've got to the tyre repair shop. Remember, it is illegal to drive with a skinny tyre for any longer than that's required. So the soonest convenience of getting to a tyre shop, you must change it to the original tyre. I hope that's helped, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video.